Righty, well, welcome back to Hit the Gap for 2025. The preseason and everything's concluded, and we've just had round one. How did your trials and what was your opinion of the round one for this year, Mitchy, 2025? How'd that go?
Well, it's good to be back first and foremost, but geez, I tell you what, not the result we wanted from a fan perspective, Aaron. But overall, round one was an interesting roller coaster, that's for sure. Um, I think a lot of people, I feel like a lot of people did not get what they wanted to see, not from just their own perspective, but probably a little bit of surprising results from some things and some pretty pretty obvious ones from other ones, I guess. But we'll open that can of worms eventually.
Yeah, I mean, if not for some close games, I mean, there was probably two maybe close games that were actually decent games to watch, and the others were kind of just shit slinging fests. But everything else just seemed to be like a blowout game, right? Like we'll start. Obviously, we had the Vegas games, not this weekend being the weekend prior, but that Warriors and Raiders game that was pretty well. Pretty well a blowout from get go, from the word go, really. 30 points to 8 there, and I mean the Warriors really didn't even look like they were going to put up that much of a fight halfway through that game. It was just, I don't know, they were kind of in shambles, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's, geez, I tell you what, oh man, I don't think anyone really, I really don't think anyone saw that coming in terms of, I feel like people knew that the Warriors were going to struggle a little bit.
Mm,
I think that was always on the cards. Um, but I don't think anyone really thought that it was going to be that much of a blowout. Like luckily the second game kind of gave a bit of a redemption arc, but that, geez, for a first
yeah.
game, that's a tough sale to the American fans. But look, I hope they got what they wanted out of it at least.
Yep. Oh, I mean, even the other exhibition games, I think it was the Gillaroos and the English women's side playing, like nearly 100 points to nil at one point. It was 90 something points to nil. And then I think they ended up getting
God,
some points on the board in the last 5 minutes or something like that. Like,
yeah, that was
yeah,
that was definitely the game where you kind of wish that it didn't get played in Vegas.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's not like it's nothing personal, but my goodness, it was just a tough watch.
Probably wasn't
Um,
one to showcase for how
yeah,
gritty the game is, sort of thing, when you put in two completely different level sides up against each other.
yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I think you wanna go into Vegas with like you obviously can't know ahead of time. Like it's all hindsight 2020, I guess, but you can't really like expect like surely there's some sort of statistic you can sort of pull up to go, okay, maybe we don't play this game and maybe we try and play this game. Um,
Maybe even just the fact like how far ahead our women's league is, obviously in comparison to theirs, would have been the first sort of factor, I would have thought. I mean,
oh
hopefully
yeah, 100%.
hopefully it stirs something up and then it gets people, the women in England, sort of backing it more, or a bit more interest in it, I should say, rather,
Mm.
just to have a bit more, yeah, or a bit more interest around it altogether. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that's just that game as well specifically. But back to the other ones, yeah, 30 points to 8, like it was tough. It was a tough go from the Warriors. They just, I don't know, seemed very disjointed. Like obviously
Yeah, I mean
losing SJ.
with their signings, you'd at least I mean definitely one of the biggest things I think they missed was keeping Tamara. Look, maybe they know stuff that the fans don't know. Maybe there's
Mm,
something missing there.
yeah,
Um, there entirely could be, but I feel like leaving Tamara Martin out of the clash was probably a mistake. I think
yeah,
they really lacked that cohesion in the halves. Um, yeah, they really just they were missing something. I mean obviously, you know, Nickel Clockstad, it felt like he was trying anything he tried was he was doing it alone. But then on
mm,
top of that, when he did try, it wasn't like he was felt like he wasn't putting his all in. Like maybe he felt a little bit like he wasn't really the one to play the game. I don't know. Um, or he was missing like the extra piece of his puzzle to play off. I don't know. It's kind of strange, but The Warriors definitely had a very struggle, a very bit of a big struggle there with like just linking anything together. And with the signings that they had, you would have thought far out. Surely they have more to offer here, you know?
Yeah. The combination, I guess, of especially having oh geez, Metcalf obviously stepping back up or stepping back in after injury and whatnot, and having Johnson lead the team last year.
Mm.
But
I mean, look, I felt like they went into the game thinking that they had some of the biggest forwards,
yeah,
and the Raiders were just even bigger.
equally as big in terms of size and that, but
But their
stamina and that
endurance
they
was
just
ridiculous ahead, like
yeah, it
so far ahead.
just seemed to be like a step above, which just wore him out and proved it hard. But yeah, like you were saying earlier with the combinations and that, or just things not clicking. Yeah, I think the Chanel Harris Tavita and Metcalf thing just didn't really work. And then, as you said, obviously CNK at the back there, just nothing really coming off. So whether maybe they do start to look at bringing Tamare back in or whatnot, who knows? But
I feel like they have to.
yeah,
I
pretty
feel I
pretty
feel
rough.
like Lukey Metcalf didn't have the worst possible game he could have had, but maybe Aris Tavita, he could probably take a little bit of a seat somewhere, maybe for a little bit, maybe surf the pine and let Tamara have a go instead. See if that like yields any better results.
Yeah,
That's the only
possibly
thing I
get a
can really think of
combination,
there.
hopefully. Yeah, yep. Yes, I mean, not what Warriors fans wanted for round one, but obviously Raiders fans will be pretty stoked about that. It's probably the first time in the last couple of years the Raiders have actually looked out of the gate, looked very promising and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
hopefully it's something they can keep up moving on to round two and then further into the season. But moving on to that second game, which was definitely the better one of the two to watch, Panthers and Sharks, 28 points to 22. That one really felt like it could have been anyone's up until the last couple of minutes. I thought anyway.
Oh, honestly, this one was the one that sort of made me say, "Holy fuck, I missed football, bro." Like
Yeah,
this was the one. Like that, it had literally everything. You had
it
forwards
was.
going in, you had edges going in, you had
Yeah,
wings going in. It was something good. There was a
yeah, it
forward on
was.
each team, and that's something that normally doesn't happen.
I think it was only really Laurie's last try for the Panthers, which was in the last probably 10 minutes somewhere there that locked it up because up
Mm.
until that point I think Fanua Blake came on and got Sharks back into the game and it was quite close there, but a lot better. I mean, obviously Panthers, everyone sort of says it every year, or they question it rather. Can they do it again, or how can they hold up after losing so many people and that? And they've just shown once again, as per usual, um, losing a major half and then a couple forwards and whatnot. They still have the ability to have other teams' numbers. And Sharks, mind you, didn't play bad by any means. There was some sort of scenarios there where they were a little bit off, but
I
pretty
was gonna
pretty good
s- I was gonna
pretty good overall,
say,
I thought. Yeah.
like even with these major losses and stuff like that for the Penrith Panthers, um, and how they're consistently proving to be a handful for everyone who they verse.
Mm.
Um, it makes you think. Like even watching that game, there was still work they had to do. Like
Yeah.
they did not have a perfect game by any means. Their defense wasn't the greatest.
Mm.
Um, there was a lot of drop ball. Uh, there was a lot of things going on that doesn't normally happen for Panthers.
Cleary
But
even a bit
even
quiet to his standard
even
as
Cleary
well.
was very quiet. Yeah, but that's honestly I sort of expected Cleary to be quiet because you don't want to risk him at the start of the season, especially with how bad some of his joints are and stuff at the moment. So very tender. So I think there's still room for them to grow, and they're still an absolute reckoning force in the NRL right now,
Yep.
even after having their team quite honestly decimated.
Decimated pretty well. You're right. Yeah. Yep. And then having young Cole in there, which Cole got a decent bit of game time last year and possibly even the year before as well, or a little bit anyway. But given say 5 or 6 rounds, if he does stay that 5/8, then obviously their combination is going to grow as well. Obviously, having all preseason, they would have worked out whatever they got going at the moment. But just the more games together, the better they'll get. Those two being Cole and Cleary. So Yeah,
I mean,
definitely scary to think about.
even as I look at it right now, like the Sharks had a better effective tackle rate. They had less tackles made. They had significantly less tackles missed. They
Mm,
had less errors than the Panthers. They had less penalties conceded than the Panthers. They had all these stats are significantly against the Panthers, and they can still pull a win. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's
It's
it's it's it's something. It is something.
really telling about the the intangibles and just those moments that when they're grasped can really turn the tide and momentum of a game for sure. But Sharks, like we're saying, Sharks not by any means having a bad game or anything. Just a couple little sort of bits here and there they probably want to tidy up. But another sort of year at least for them, looking promising. Having Trindle back this year too from the get go, I think it's going to benefit them. They seem to sort of have a pretty steady side at the moment. I think Atkinson, I believe, played. He was started on the bench. He was on the bench or whatever, but
He
he's
played
probably the
minor
only
minutes,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, he's probably the only one really that may drop out this year at some point due to him signing with the Dragons, I think it was. But yeah, they're pretty set in their side, I think, for the moment. So will be interesting to see how they go moving forward. A couple
I think
rounds in this year.
the other thing to highlight for this game too is just how good,
Mm,
how good of a player Will Kennedy really is.
yeah,
Like, and even aging, like, man, he was everywhere that game. He was a defensive powerhouse that game. I couldn't believe
yeah,
the amount of work he got into on that game.
yeah.
Um, it actually it shocked me. It actually shocked Sharks fans. Like, yeah, I had Sharks fans in the DMs going, "Holy shit, look at this!" Bro.
Yeah.
It was
Yep.
hilarious because they're normally used to Will making meals of it, really. But he had a stellar game, and I think that should really give Sharks fans something to be very confident about, that their fullback is still quite that and more.
Yep. 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 Very good. Very good. Moving on to this weekend, just being the rest of the round. Back home here in Australia, Thursday night's game, we had the Roosters up against the Broncos down at Allianz Stadium in Sydney there, and geez, that result,
Ouch.
I don't think anyone really expected it to go the way it did. I was on the way back home from work that night, flying back home, so I only got to see probably the first 10 minutes or thereof, and it was sort of anyone's game at that point. I think Dominic Young had gone in already for a try, but it was still sort of pretty back and forth at that point. And then I turned it back on, or checked the score rather, when we were landing, which was only maybe 5-10 minutes to go. And yeah, holy, 50 points to 14 in
Yeah.
insanity.
First,
The
I think was this the first hat trick of the round as well. I think it was, because there was multiple hat
uh
tricks this round, but I think this was the first one.
yeah, very possibly. I think
Yeah,
Cobbo
Cobbo.
went in for three,
Yeah,
didn't he? Yeah.
Cobbo got a 3.
Yep.
But this was a insane game. I mean, look, everyone knows that it doesn't matter what happens in the first 5 rounds for the Roosters. It's usually negative on the win rate.
Mm,
Um, but they'll always bounce back towards the end. That's just the telltale of Roosters.
mm,
But my God, I don't think anyone picked 1450, bro. That's
yeah.
it
Yeah.
was a monstering. It was absolute just smashing.
Probably a little bit telling as well. I mean, because there are a couple different combinations and that going on in both sides. Obviously, the Roosters are sort of, whether they want to call it mid rebuild or not, but they are lacking a few experienced players. I mean, they lost a bunch last year, be it to injury or retirement
Mm,
and whatnot. So they are, no matter what they are, sort of in the middle of a rebuild. And then the Broncos with a couple positions changed as well at the moment, but yeah, just complete different results, unfortunately for the Roosters in that one
actually,
there.
come
So
to think of it, Roosters, them what they've essentially, whether it's by injury or whether they've moved on to other teams, they've lost their they've lost their
main
6,
prop,
7, 8, and
yep,
9.
yep,
They
and
lost their 6, 7, 8, and 9. Like,
yep, and
brutal.
their centers. They've lost both centers or center and winger sort of thing combinations. So it's a tough time for them to work it out. Albeit there are a few good people stepping in. Chad Townsend obviously going down there's got the experience, but probably not the same, yielding the same results as what Walker would be after they're used to, playing how Walker would play.
Mm.
And
Likewise to Kiri as well.
yeah, yep. And a few of their centers and that Mark Nwanga playing, and I think Robert Toya was the other one that played this game. It might have been his debut. So a few different
Yeah,
people in different positions there.
both him and Marky Mark unfortunately got received a bit of a bullying, unfortunately, on their edges.
Yeah,
So
yep, yeah,
there's a little bit of
which
bullying going on. So
just could be, a hopefully for Broncos fans, they'll be hoping it's a sign of a good preseason and hopefully a new mentality for the rest of the year. Just the boys are back and ready to play under Madge, hopefully. So
and if Benny Hunt keeps playing like that too, my goodness, he had Roosters reeling.
yeah,
He had all the attention on him. He still made him pay for it. And every time they focused on him, someone else would just pump him. Whether it was Walshy, whether it was Cobbo, there was just something going on all the time. I mean, even Payne had a
blinder.
a really bit of a blinder for his try. He got a try assist as well. Jeez, Ford
Yeah,
getting a try assist. Bless him.
yeah, yep, yeah.
That's it.
It's
Get him into the six.
only time will tell, but for Broncos fans, you got to be pretty stoked with that and hoping they keep that sort of momentum going forward, and hopefully it's a whole new mindset for the boys up in Queensland there, which in my opinion should yield results for Origin time too, most definitely.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
the Friday games, we'll have a quick look at that. Now, this is one of the closer games, which wasn't that good to watch. West Tigers versus Knights. This was another one where it felt like it could have been anyone's game up until right at the end. And the Knights just got away with it right at the end there. I think it might have only even been in the
2 points in
dying
it.
minutes.
Yep.
Yeah, it was 10 points to 8. Yeah, just, I don't know, hard one to watch. The Tigers not as bad as previous seasons. Like watching them play, it wasn't as if it was like build up, then make a
I
mistake or
think,
something. But it was just not. It just wasn't exciting to watch at all.
yeah, and I mean, I think, look, when it comes down to this particular game, I think we haven't seen even the start of this. I mean, there was no Appy, so
Yeah.
and the only reason they looked there was no Appy, and there was also no Jureen Buller. So two of the biggest players that they possibly have, who were probably the two shining lights really of their last season. As bad as it went, and as bad as it could have gone, they still had shining lights, and those two were those two players. I mean, they had Galvin. He did have a pretty solid game, regardless. But look, I think missing those two main players really, really hurt them not having them there.
Yeah.
I think we'll see a little bit of a different side to them when they're back in, whenever that may be. But at the minimum, Appy. They need Appy big time because he's the one who steers them around the park. If Appy comes in and takes the heat off Luai, Luai's going to run an absolute muck, and he did run a muck for a little bit there.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I think well, we'll have a look at team lists when we go through round 2, but they should all be back this week, I imagine, due to I think some of it being either possibly suspension and injury and whatnot. But yeah, definitely should be back operating at full potential. Obviously, the Knights with Cogger and Fletcher Sharp, that new 10th halves combo pairing, I think, for the Knights in the last year or two. So probably take a little bit of time to settle in. But I thought Fletcher Sharp had a pretty good game at 5'8" there. He didn't go too bad. And once again, obviously Ponga was probably the shining light of the Knights. They more than anything probably relied on him a bit too much yet again.
I think that Sharp was probably the big one there. I think Sharp really, really sealed that game for me, and they took a lot of the heat. Like, he took a lot of the heat off everyone else.
Yeah.
I don't think Marju's try even happens without Fletcher Sharp being such a nuisance for the rest of the team and them having to invest so much into him.
Yeah.
Same with Ponga, right? Like, I mean, they invested so much into Sharp that Ponga got away with getting that out to Marju and whatnot. So
Yeah.
I think when it comes to the Knights, do I like Fletcher Sharp as a half? I'm still not sold. I still think he needs to be on the wing. I think he's a natural born winger. I think they're probably selling themselves short by not keeping him on the wing. Whether it's a necessity thing or not, I still think they need to definitely move him back to the wing. And even though he had a stellar game, there's nothing on his game. I thought his game played great. I just think they need to find another option that isn't that. I think they really, really need Sharp on the wing because that
Yeah.
causes such a threat. The fact that you'll have to invest so much into such a far side of the field opens up the rest of the field, So I think it's a necessity for them. But if you want to go off this game, it was a tough watch from both perspectives. It was awful, but it was scrappy, but we got through it.
Possibly as well. I mean, as we're saying, it's like the 10th halves pairing they've had, but doing so well at fullback when he filled in for Ponga for I think it was quite a bit of last year actually. Is probably where that's what's spurred on there, and obviously Ponga's not going to be any good at 5'8". He just can't really be in the front defensive line, and that's might be a little bit of the thinking there. I would think anyway, just experimenting with chucking him in there. But
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, definitely yeah, long hard watch that one, unfortunately. So hopefully they can both pick up a bit of steam in that get the round one ring rust off and get back into it this week. And then the second game on the Friday being Rabbitohs and Dolphins. This one was a close one as well. Not not as bad of a watch, thankfully. This one was probably a little bit better of a game in my opinion. They
Bit more
had
exciting to watch, yeah.
yeah, they definitely both had a little bit more, not so much to play for, but yeah, definitely a bit more go about them in this one. Rabbitohs sort of off on the back foot from the get go. Unfortunately, they've lost Latrell for I think it's up to 6 or even possibly 8 weeks, and then obviously Cam Murray as well is gone for the season before the season even kicked off. So they've had to sort of debut a few people and do a little bit of shuffling there from the get go, but um, yeah, not too bad. Rabbitohs only sort of really clinching that in the last little bit too as well. I think Dolphins pretty well had that, and it was only maybe a couple errors or something toward the end there that
Yep, they let it go.
yeah that allowed Rabbitohs back into it. So good positive signs for both teams, I think, especially being Christian Wolf's first year taking over the Dolphins. They've haven't really lost any big names. They've obviously got a few back in Gilbert and whatnot. Signed Kula Kefu from the Cowboys, um, and yeah, I think it'd probably just be given a couple weeks, you'll start to see both of those sides sort of come into their own a bit more and hopefully work a few things out.
I think the biggest thing there is that we got to really see how Tyrone goes with his collarbone. I mean,
Yeah, I think
I
he's
think
he's definitely
the key to their success for this season is going to be all through that kid. He is unreal.
yeah,
He is an unreal player. He reminds me very much of Fletcher Sharp in the way
yep,
that he really just takes that winger position and takes it to the next level.
yeah,
Um, and you got to argue that when he went off, it looked dire. It looked dire for the Bunnies.
mm,
It was just off the fact that there was a bunch of poor errors from the Dolphins that gave them that last try. And the only reason that the Rabbits actually win there is because Asako cooked all his kicks. They were all on the right side, and he cooked his kicks. He couldn't. He's a good, terrible kicker from the right hand side. So
mm,
um, they're very lucky that they got away with this one. The Bunnies.
mm,
It was a tight game, but you have to wonder what the what happens there if Jermaine just has a better time on his right hand edge.
yeah, yep,
Um, but
might be,
even that said as well, like if let's say Jermaine even gets one kick and they go to Golden Point, you know,
yeah,
um, who would you be betting on to win the Golden Point there? It'd probably be the Finns because they have people. In fact, they got multiple people really who are versed in the way of getting kicks, whereas they've just got Jamie, and Jamie's pretty fresh. So
yeah. Just in terms of that's right, probably the side as a whole. But if you're talking about yeah, field goals, you've definitely got those couple kicker options between obviously O'Sullivan was back in for this game as well, seeing as they had to
mhm.
travel, had to do a bit of a venue change, which threw the team up into the air a little bit. But yeah, you're definitely right. Um, and then the Saturday games, we'll jump onto the Saturday games, Dragons and the Bulldogs. Now, this one was another one. It was lot closer, but again, not so bad of a watch. 20 points to 28 going to the Bulldogs. Dragons really, I mean, it's almost a whole new look Dragon side, right? This was one of those games that had a hat trick in it to Christian Tuipulotu on the wing there.
But I'm
So,
still not sold on him. Hey,
mm, yeah,
I
it's
just,
I
man,
honestly I did tip them. It was a sort of my left field tip just to see how
as did
they'd
I.
go, with the new look side. And look, I don't think they disappointed too much, but definitely didn't look like the tight knit side you probably expect from such big star signings, or
Yeah,
how
I mean
many
that's the big
signings
one
they
for
had.
me. Like they just had all these massive signings, and just it fell a bit short of expectations. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Bulldogs side was phenomenal.
Mm,
The signing of Satili Tupanua as well. The Roosters really fucked up by letting him go. That was probably one of the biggest things that I noticed is that he was one of their more prolific try scoring big boys. And they let him go, and that was a massive mistake, especially if they wanted to change their game plan around how they wanted to operate with Terrell as well. Um, I'm still very shocked that they let him go, but hey, them's the breaks. He really did well at the Bulldogs, and he proved it already. He's already picked himself up a double. So
Definitely a handy signing for them, because they're, as we saw last year, pretty much most of the year they were a side that was putting, you know, like not so much interchange players, but to utility players in the forward position, trying to fill a hole. So any big bodies they can pick up is definitely working out well for them. But yeah,
yeah, for sure.
on the Dragons, as we're saying there, like obviously the likes of Holmes and Gutherson and even Ilias at halfback there. Obviously not as big of a signing as the other two, but yeah, it just didn't seem to I don't know, turn the tide as much as you thought it would. Even Cookie coming back, an aging player, but just the experience and skill he's got, you would have thought they probably would have just been a little bit more tight knit than they were. But who knows? Might be something we see in coming weeks. Might be a bit more improvement
Yeah, I mean that's the
with
thing.
that.
A lot of these sides are all players who come into their own a few weeks in anyway as well. So
Yeah,
Val
yeah,
especially, we've played we've watched Val closely for years and years and years. He's definitely one of those sorts of players who definitely gets better as the season goes on
hmm drops also in and out of form at times and gets a good patch and runs with it.
and then runs with it.
Um,
Yeah, then
yep.
gets suspended.
Yes, yep. The next Saturday game, and this here we are returning to talking about blowouts. Sea Eagles 42 points to 12 against the Cowboys down at Four Pines Park, and holy moly, it was a thrashing just from the get go. Like, I don't think Cowboys even scored until, we'll have a quick look, but until there you
The
go,
early last 10.
the last 10 minutes, last 8 minutes even, and those were gimmies. Those were really the Seagulls just fully taken foot off the gas on
Oh yeah,
those
they were
ones.
they were just slacking at that point. The Eagles at that point were just like, hey, let's just try as much tricky shit and fun shit as we can and enjoy ourselves,
Yeah,
and see what we can get away with. And they dropping the ball, letting us get runs. It's just
yeah,
that's all it was really.
rough hard watch, because it was, I think, for a game that initially didn't have much stoppage, it was just all the Eagles' possession it was just so lopsided, all possession, that even field position. Like, we may have in that first half gotten down the Sea Eagles 20, maybe in there 20 once, twice, or something like that. It felt like, but yeah,
Yeah,
just from watching that, it was just all Sea Eagles from the get go. There, they definitely ran havoc on the Cowboys' left side defense. I was talking about Olakuatu and Turbo. Turbo just absolutely ran amok. I think every
yeah.
time it might have even been like second or third tackle, he was getting that ball and just sort of drifting out right. It almost always guaranteed him like a good 10 or 20
I
meters even
think
at times.
I think what really got me was the amount of like baits and dummies that we were falling for. Um, the amount of ineffective tackles we made in this game was like, honestly, inexcusable for
Yeah,
an NRL side.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but the other thing was, I mean, like the percentages of like possession at different times of the game were just definitely
Mm,
indicative of like a team that had no physical endurance.
yeah,
That was the other part that got me. There was just no go forward, um, no desire, like no hunger.
yeah,
First game back, and it's just like fucking slugging around the field. Like, man, it was a
yeah,
tough watch. It was a tough watch.
yeah. Between the poor, I guess, poor defensive effort and whatnot, but yeah, just attack desire and attack and whatnot just was not there. Like
And
even going back to that second, sorry, trial game against Melbourne. Melbourne very clearly weren't all in on it or weren't going too hard as it was a trial. But even just some of the stuff we saw from that, it was like it just didn't translate, didn't come forward into
yeah,
round one with them.
and even like looking at things. I mean, you look at it. I think the Manly Seagulls had like an average ball play, like just playing the ball in general, of like
Mm,
4 seconds, which is one of the slowest of the round.
yep,
And
yep,
for the round to blow out that badly with that average is kind of like for the game itself to blow out that badly, like when you like your defense specifically,
yeah,
like what are you doing? Like
yeah,
what are you even doing when you're waiting for the ball to get played at that point? Like you look
yeah,
at the Panthers average. The Panthers average like a fucking 3 play on the ball. I think they were a little bit slower this week, but like with like a 3.1 or 3.2 or something like that. But
mm,
like
mm,
the average play of the ball is like almost a whole second faster for some of these like top tier echelon teams. Manly is by no means a bad team. They fucking smashed us. They smashed. They're probably going to smash a lot of people this year with the amount of offensive capability they've got. But the fact that they can still be pretty slow at playing the ball compared to most teams, like even we had a faster play of the ball speed when we
yeah,
had the ball.
yeah,
But um, even with that, like we still couldn't defend their offense. Like their offense was just insane.
yeah.
Um, Cows have a lot of work to do, man. They've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, definitely. And it'll be again, as you said, with some of the teams already, it's just a little bit unexpected, or you would have thought of a bit better of an effort. It'll be something in the coming rounds where, 2, 3 rounds in, even 4 rounds in, if it hasn't changed, then there's some
Some other
real
issues.
issues that are going to be
Mm.
carrying on further
And
into the
with all
season.
that said as well, take nothing away from the Seagulls because they had a stellar performance honestly from one to 14. Like man, they played outstanding.
All did their jobs, and everyone, I mean, outside of, I think, Broker's probably one of the only ones they don't have in the side at the moment that
I mean, I didn't even
would be
really pay
there
that much
otherwise.
attention to their bench, but like
Yeah,
man, even like people like watching Olakau'atu just walk over 4 players and like
multiple times.
Watching Turbo like bait 2 players into taking a dummy and then still
Yeah,
getting work done. Like it's just
yep.
DCE, the amount of holding up his passes so perfectly. There was so many things that they did that was like, man, why can't mine do that?
What does a mind look
Why
like
doesn't
that?
mine look like that?
And again on blowouts, ending on another blowout was Sunday's game, Storm versus the Eels, 56 points to 18. This one by far and away looked like it was going to be 60 plus to probably nearly nothing for most of the game, but yeah, just another one where it was sort of put your hand up if you want to try. I think Coates might have gone. No, he didn't. Sorry, I thought he might have gone over for a hat trick, but Coates got a couple. He got 2 or 3, and I think Warbrick might have got 2.
Yeah,
But
I think he passed one of them to Warbrick, didn't he?
yeah, yeah. Or sorry, Warbrick
No,
might have
no,
gone in again
Warbrick
and passed
Warbrick
it to
went it. Yeah,
Hughes.
yeah, to
But
Hughes. That's what it was.
yeah, yeah, it was just an absolute whopping. Albeit Eels again as well. Obviously, no Moses for the foreseeable future, 6 weeks at least. I think it was with his. I think he's got a foot injury again, maybe,
Yeah,
or an ankle
Liz
injury.
Frank maybe.
Yeah, not too sure, but yeah, just holy moly. Um, a bit of work to do there. Obviously, they've lost Gutho. That's a big out as well for them. They've got young Isaiah
I mean,
Iongi.
Guffer is usually the one who makes games like this sting a lot less.
Yeah, or
When Moses is out.
digs in. digs in a bit more and
Yeah.
yeah, turns results. Yeah,
Boy, was it noticeable missing both of them. That's for sure.
yeah, most definitely. Whether it be
um,
through inexperience or just
Other
yeah,
notable
just
losses, right? Blaze Talangi, like not having Blaze was pretty
yeah,
rough.
yep, yep. We did see some of their like Will Pincini went in for that try, one of those tries that was quite solid, but it just yeah, just all over the park, unfortunately. And Melbourne, as Melbourne do, took advantage of it. And it felt like almost every kickoff, every 5 to 10 minutes, they'd be going in for another try. So um, hopefully Eels in the coming weeks, hopefully can get some sort of combination going there. I believe who did they have playing number 7 was Volkman, the ex-Warriors player. They ended up picking up filling in there, which he doesn't have a whole lot of first grade experience. He had a little bit of a go at the Warriors, I think, and had been injured for a long time since. But yeah, it's almost the same as last year, right? You got Dylan Brown there, who probably isn't a 7. He plays his best game at 6, but it's almost like, well, he's sort of the only experienced one in the halves
Mm.
in the spine. So it's like it sort of almost falls back on him. Responsibility falls back on him no matter what.
I think
Um,
Asaya Leongi, he had a pretty
yeah,
good crack as well.
not too bad of a game. They did pepper him and bully him a bit, which was expected because that's
Expected. He's new.
he'd only
He's a
sort of
rookie.
I think he'd only debuted last year at the Panthers, but
Yeah.
the Eels I think are going all in on him, hoping he's the new Gutho or their new one. So give him time, give him time. I mean, we even saw last year at the Titans, I believe it was. Um, they had to debut because um, Brimson was injured. He had another injury for most of the season, I think it was, but they had to debut Young. Oh, the name's not coming to me. I don't know why the name's not coming to me. I will think of it in a minute. But Kinney, that's it. Keanu Kinney had
Oh
to
yeah,
debut him at fullback, and he had a really rough sort of start to the season. Dropped out once Brimson was back, or Campbell came back into fullback position, and then came back in later in the season. Absolutely brained it. So could be very similar sort of scenario for the
Mm.
Eels and Isaiah Iongi, hopefully. But yeah, classic Melbourne. Melbourne doing Melbourne things. So yeah, big first round. A lot of blowout scores and lots of really impressive tries and some really
I
really
gotta
un-
say, I've got to say that I think Lomax is a better winger. I know, I
yeah,
know, I know he doesn't want to play wing. I know he doesn't want to play wing. I know
yeah,
he would do anything to not play wing, but I think that he should own it. He's a way
yeah,
better winger than he is a center.
yeah.
He's
We did see it last year, be it through Origin or at the Dragons on the wing there. He did very well. He's
he just owns it. He's just a
contribution to the team
sensational winger.
and stats alone, exactly right. Just he obviously enjoys center. He feels more comfortable at center, but yeah, it just he can fill in and do it well. And I mean, they do have Addo to come back on the wing there, and somebody else, I believe, maybe a wing option. But yeah, it may be something. Who knows? They may experiment with down the line, possibly. Who knows? We can only wait and find out. But yeah, I do tend to agree with you. Agree with you there. Unfortunately for Lomax. Round 2, we'll have a quick look at the matchups. Thursday night's game is the Knights versus the Dolphins. This one will be one that's probably going to be a bit closer again, you would think, after what we've seen from both of them. Personally, I'm going to be tipping Dolphins on this one. I just think from what we've seen already and from the sides that they laid out, yeah, I think Dolphins should be a surefire thing for this one, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely not sold on the Knights after what I saw from that.
Yeah, yeah.
Until I see Fletcher Sharp back in a winger position, I'm probably not tipping him. So, I will be locking in on Dolphins here myself personally.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Although I think it's going to take maybe 5, at least handful of games to get a solid combination and see whether it's going to work or not. I think regardless of that, irrespective of it, the Dolphins have just got the better side and probably they're dialed in a bit more. They should be anyway. Should be finding it easy enough to handle the Knights in this one. So Dolphins for me
Yeah.
as well. Um, Friday night's game, or first one of Friday night's games anyway. We've got the Warriors up against the Sea Eagles. Now, should be a bit more comfortable for the Warriors, hopefully. This is back home at Go Media Stadium in Auckland there. Even so, though, I'm just from what we've seen from the Sea Eagles, and from what we've seen from the Warriors as well, obviously, even though they've had that week and a half or nearly 2 weeks rest, it's just going to be it's going to be a bit tough, I think. The Warriors just I don't know whether they're ready just yet for yeah what the Eagles dished out last week, which I'm sure is going to be just as rough.
Yeah, and I can't see them being able to keep up with Turbo and DCE.
Mm.
I think they're just going to do the same thing that they did to us.
Again, with the bigger forward pack on their side will be handy, but that's it. Whether they're going to be able to keep up with the stamina of it or not, I'm unsure yet. Hopefully, James Fisher Harris has a bit more impact and whatnot. Can sort of help them improve there. But yeah, I'll be again tipping Sea Eagles in that one. What about yourself?
That'll be an Eagles for me, mate.
Yeah, yep. Second Friday game of the two, Panthers versus the Roosters. Again, pretty from what we've seen, pretty clear cut. I think Roosters are just in a bit of a holding pattern at the moment. Going to take probably a little while for them to sort themselves out. I don't know how long Sam Walker's out for. I think it was pretty long term, till like mid-season. I think wasn't it
Yeah,
ACL or something like
it's
that?
it's
So
it's ACL last season that's still
yeah,
bothering. So I think
yeah.
it'll be same with Brandon Smith. I mean, I think they won't have either of them back for at least another 6 weeks. So
Yeah, and I don't know, you can't really rush them back too early and risk running it in, especially not
not on
Brandon
ACL
Smith
anyway.
anyway. So yeah, exactly. So yeah, pretty clear cut, I think, in that one as well,
That'll be
being
Penrith for me too.
Panthers, I think, yeah.
Penrith,
Um,
absolutely.
Saturday's games, the three will be Dragons versus Rabbitohs. Now, this one I'd like to think as well, probably something of a bit more of a closer game. Um, I believe who we got? We'll have a quick look. Rabbitohs have pretty much the same side outside of Whiten, who's suspended for a game, I think, and Tyrone Munro with that collarbone. So he's confirmed to be out for however many weeks it
Well,
is. I think
I'm
it's like
locking in
six
Dragons then.
weeks or something. Um, Jamie Humphries is the big one, still staying at halfback there because they bought young Lewis Dodd. Lewis Dodd was meant to be the halfback, but I think he picked some injury up, whether it was in the trials or training or something, which had given Jamie Humphries that opportunity last week, and I think
I
he
think he'll
just
keep
did.
that though.
Yeah, I think he just did too well just to give it straight back. So it's
Yeah,
gonna be his jersey to lose because they've been pretty wayward ever since losing Ilias, or ever since losing Reynolds, really. But
Reynolds.
ever since
Yeah,
losing dropping Ilias, I should say, they've sort of been wanting for someone in that seven position. That's pretty much it in terms of changes to them. Dragons pretty well the same sort of side. We're seeing Tyrell Sloan come back into the reserves again this week. So whether he gets an opportunity from the bench or something like that, we don't know. But yeah, should be a much closer game. Ilias up against his old side here. And well, Cook as well. Damien Cook up against his old side as well. I don't quite know. It's going to be a tough one, I think, for me. I think it really could go either way, but I'll probably lean towards the Dragons just because of what we saw last week. It just wasn't enough to pip the Bulldogs, but hopefully they sort of the more games they play in that, the more time they got together, they can sort some combinations out. Hopefully Val can go over for a try this week because I think we were all waiting for that last week and it just didn't eventuate, unfortunately.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
I think when it comes to this game in particular, the fact that there's no Munro, that's enough for me to say Dragons. Straight up.
Yeah, tough, on their
I just don't
try
think they're
scoring
gonna have
position.
I just don't think they've got the try scoring power to outscore them at this point.
Mm, mm. Yeah, so Dragons for me on that one as well. Saturday's game, middle game, sorry, second game is Cowboys versus Sharks up here in Townsville. This one, again, from what we've seen from both sides last week or in round one anyway as a whole, you would have to think Sharks. I'm gonna because I am a Cowboys diehard and faithful, gonna tip the Cowboys in it. because I wanna say and I wanna hope that round one was just a bit of hoodoo or something. But yeah, it just if this is another one, we see another similar, if not the same sort of result or effort, then it's pretty pretty concerning. Pretty concerning. I think the Sharks are consistently the last couple of years been a hard team to beat, and definitely one for the Cowboys. They've sort of seemed to, I think, even coming up here, they've made it hard for them, and they've got no changes in their side. So yeah, it's going to be a real tough one. But I think I might go Cowboys on this one. What about yourself?
It's a painful one because I'm pretty sure. I mean, look, if our defensive setup on the left edge is the exact same. It's
Very
the
weak,
exact same.
and you're
So
going up
it's
against
it's
Ramey and
still Murray, Purdue, and then praying that Tommy and Ricky can get in there.
yeah.
Um, that said, I think that's unfortunate because you're versing Ramian and Multalo. So
Ramey
yeah,
and
it's
Stone Street, I think it is on their left. I think the right would be
actually no, yeah,
Mulatalo.
but yeah, that's right. Multalo is the other side, so it'll be
You're right.
Stone Street and
Yeah,
Ramian. Yeah, that's I don't see it. I really don't.
yeah,
Unfortunately, I just
yeah.
don't see it. Um, I'd love to tip cows just to see if it was a hoodoo thing, but yeah, geez, I'm probably gonna have to go Sharks because I had such a terrible tipping round one. So
Try and redeem it.
try
The
and redeem myself.
one big news for the Cowboys team anyway, in terms of ins and outs, is Nanai dropping out into the reserves and Kai O'Donnell named in the starting second row position. So we'll see what happens there. Bateman and Kai O'Donnell, our second
Clifford and
rowers. So
McKaylee are in the reserves too, which is interesting.
yeah, back in I think possibly Clifford and Michaela were in there for round one as reserves, but whether they do sort of work around as something on the interchange, I would think McKaylee would at least be possibly taking Harrison Edwards' spot, if anything, and then Lawton, obviously Clifford and Lawton are somewhat like for like there, but I think Lawton will stay on as a second row or even middle interchange there or backup for Robson's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't see that side that's been named. I can't see being changed too much, but yeah, interesting on the Nanai spec there. We'll have to wait and see what happens, what comes out on that one a bit later in the week. Saturday's last game, the third game, is Raiders versus Broncos. This should be a pretty good one. That's at GIO Stadium in Canberra there. I'm going to tip Broncos based on what we saw, but I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park for them by any means after what we saw the Raiders dish up at Vegas. Like, they definitely seem like they're starting hot and ready to roll this year. Hey,
I think one thing that the Broncos may actually struggle with is the sheer size of the Raiders.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, big
I,
pack.
they've got a lot of small boys on their team. Um, it's going to be hard to work up the field if they can get around them and get their halves and their backs working.
Yeah,
Getting around these forwards, I think they'll make a big impact. But
mm,
I think that first half is going to be very telling. I think
yep,
it's going to be very very tight for the first half, and then second half, if anything, it'll blow out.
could be
But
grueling. Yeah.
yeah, they're going to have to really make these forwards work and work them hard for
Mhm.
sure.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm thinking possibly. I reckon I'll go Broncos with this one. Just from what we've seen so far from the very small sample size, I think they've probably just got a bit more in terms of attacking power and stuff like that. Albeit Raiders did quite impress through the likes of Savage and Weeks and whatnot
I
in round
mean,
one there. So
I think the thing for me that'll make me go Broncos here is, I mean, we haven't seen if there's any other outs for Broncos or anything like that, but
mm.
um, they did lose. Raiders did lose Tarpanay to injury. Sorry, not injury. They lost him to suspension,
Suspension was
and
it?
same with Xavier
Yeah.
Savage. Xavier
Yeah.
Savage is also suspended too. So
Yep. Yep. Yep.
um, I think that only puts Levi in maybe and Hopewadi. I want to say so. Hopewadi will go to the. Oh, Tamale as well. No, Tamale was there already. It'll be just Hopewadi going to the wing,
Yep.
and uh it'll be Denny Levi in reserve, pushing into reserves, I guess, and having um maybe Mariota pushing into the 17. I don't know, But either way, I think that alone tells me that Broncos will probably have an upper hand here.
Mm.
We'll have to see how that goes, but I think the Broncos I'll be tipping.
Yep. Yep. Very nice. Sunday's games, Eels versus Tigers, could be shaping up to be a little bit of a poo slinger of the round. Spoon Bowl, the revisit of the Spoon Bowl, or the rematch from Spoon Bowl. Yeah, Tigers having those few big ins. They're getting Buller, Appy, and I believe we'll have a quick squiz here. Buller back at fullback, that's right. And Appy back at hooker there at 9. Very nice. Yeah, I think it'll probably.
They get Staines back as well. Honestly, I'm all in. I'm all in.
Yeah,
Going
yeah.
in on Tigers, yeah.
I think it'll probably just be they've got a little bit more experience now in there in some of those key positions as opposed to the Eels. I don't know. Eels just not yet. I haven't seen enough from them yet
Yeah.
to say they're going to be able to sort of run on without the likes of Gutherson and Moses sort of guiding them around at the moment. So Tigers probably one of the first and only times I've felt more confident tipping them. I think I'm going to go Tigers in this one for sure.
Yeah, I'll definitely be on Tigers. I mean, they the poor Eels, man. It just gets worse and worse. Honestly, they lose Tunga, they lose Tuolagi. It just doesn't get better, bro. It just
Yeah.
doesn't get better, and I don't know when it will get better. That's the worst part. So,
Yep.
yeah. I mean, I'm hoping their rookies get a good time and enjoy themselves, have a bit of fun with it,
Yeah.
enjoy their first grade. But
Yep.
yeah, goodness me, it's going to be a tough one for the Eels. I tell you what.
Yep. Yep. Definitely. And the last game of the round, Bulldogs versus the Titans. Now, tough to sort of speak on the Titans, obviously, because they had the bye in round one. So it'd be the first one for all the boys running on after trials and whatnot. So I would like to tip the Titans, I think, but I just think Bulldogs still they seem to be carrying pretty all right, pretty decently from last season. There's no real sign of second year syndrome just yet. I think I'm gonna have to go Bulldogs on this one. Just yeah, based on last week's game and whatnot. It'd be good. I
Um,
mean, Titans are getting Tino back. They definitely have Tino back, and then he should have pretty well a full strength side for them.
yeah, but
Uh,
you also got to look at Tino coming back's big. Bulldogs also have Curran coming back too, and Curran was an absolute beast last year.
yeah,
Think he
definitely
played out of
helped
his
them.
skin.
Yep.
I yeah, I want to pick the Titans from the Queensland perspective here, just because I trust the fact that the Queenslanders have had a good preseason. But
Mm,
yeah, look, I'll put it this way: I'll put Khan Pereira on my multi, but I won't put Titans winning on it. I'm
yeah.
gonna go the doggies here.
Speaking on it earlier, Keanu Kinney, or speaking on him earlier, rather, Keanu Kinney at fullback there again. And then, yeah, obviously you got Brimson at 5'8" and Campbell at halfback there. They're going to give that a go this year and see what happens. That combination.
I still think that will change as well.
Yeah,
There's
likely.
chance for that to change as well. I think that's just like a little template that they've got for the team list maybe, but
Yeah.
I still think that change. I just yeah, I don't know.
They've got, and
Brimson at 5'8" is interesting. So,
as we've said, Tino coming back, and then they've recruited Regan Campbell Gillard this year. So there's a few big bodies in that there, but just whether it's going to be enough, not sold just yet. So Bulldogs for me in that one, I think.
I do need to stress though that it will be a good watch. This will
Mm,
be a very good watch just to see how their endurance has fared.
yeah.
Because they're going to have one of the biggest forward packs of the season for sure.
Yep.
Titans do now have one of the bigger forward packs of all the teams.
Yep.
Um, they got the likes of Fafita, they got the likes of Jolliffe, they've got the likes of Haas, they've got the likes of Fasua Mother Awe, they've got RCG, Fodawaka. Like these are massive boys,
Big bodies. Yeah.
massive boys.
Yep. Yep.
They're going to be hard to handle. So if they get a roll on, shit, watch out. AJ's going to cause havoc.
I
Same with
agree.
Kenny. Kenny is as they call him. He is the live wire.
Yep.
So we'll have to see what happens. But this game is actually going to be incredibly fun to watch. So
I do tend to agree. You're right. Yep. That's about it for round 2 anyway. There's not really any other major news just yet that's come out, so we'll give it about 3 or 4 rounds before we start talking about players leaving sides and whatnot, I think. But I think that's pretty much all for
I think the only real one to mention was probably Jaden Brayley, right?
Yeah, there is that. Well, it's not confirmed
It's not
just yet, but
confirmed,
seeming
yeah.
seeming highly likely that he'll join the Raiders next year on a couple years. I think it's rumored to be a 2-year deal they're supposed to sign him on, but yeah, getting him there at hooker, and obviously Phoenix Crosland's been the choice over him since his injuries and stuff like that, or starting hooker over him at the night. So we'll
And
see what
mind you,
happens.
absolutely nothing locked in yet. And I mean, with them losing, with Raiders having injuries and stuff like that, Levi still pushes into the interchanges anyway, no matter what. So he
Yeah,
might have blinders and start making Ricky look differently. So
yeah,
who knows yet?
exactly. Yep. But yeah, just other than other whispers and stuff like that, that's probably it. Did you have a try of the week or anything that came to mind for you for round 1? We should
Yeah,
also mention, obviously, we're running it a bit different today. We're not at the desk on camera. The sound quality is probably quite horrible in comparison because we're just doing it remotely online. But I think we'll still try and get our try of the week vision up if you've got something there.
yeah, mate. Yeah, definitely. Look, it's it's good for me. It's got to be the Olakawatu try, and as much as it pains me to put the Eagles in as my first try of the season,
Mm,
but also against my beloved Cowboys. Against my beloved Cowboys, there
yep.
was nothing hotter than watching a big bull like Olakawatu run over a bunch of people and
Mm,
score a try. Just first of all, we'll give honorable props to DC with the way he held that ball up, but man, watching Olakawatu leave Purdue on the ground and then carry not one Drinkwater, but two Dearden and three Tuolangi all
yeah.
on top of him, just on his
Yeah.
back, and just keep powering for probably a good 10 meters, 5-10 meters, and still score.
Yeah,
Man,
that's rugby league.
it hurt to watch, but fuck me, that's rugby league. I tell you what, bloody hell, that Olakuatu, you're number one, mate. God damn. God
Very
damn.
nice, very nice. I think as well in terms of getting a fantasy buy for round 1 anyway, or a suggested fantasy player for the round. Most people seem to already have him initially, but whether he dropped out of a few sides, going back to the Raiders, he did quite well for him. Was Tamale on the wing there now? Originally bought as a center, Sevilio Tamale. He was a center before the season kicked off anyway. He got named on the wing in round 1. Did real well. I don't think anyone expected him to do as well as he did. 49 points. Just seemed to be involved in almost everything, and everything he was involved in had a touch on the ball and just went hard. Very good prospect for them, especially like we're saying with the likes of Savage and whatnot. You do have your Albert Hopoatis and Seb Chris's and whatnot, and even Tomoko floating around who could jump into that position at any point, even Weeks if someone sort of came in at fullback. But yeah, yeah, I think he's definitely one to look at. Only 329K at the moment, 25.8% of people owned him, but with that 49 points from round 1, he's gone up 30K. So if he's got a steady climb of 30K in him each week, then he'll won't be long before he's not so much of a buy. So that's definitely one to look at, I think. I think that's probably about it. Relatively short one this week. It's pretty condensed and whatnot, just because of the setup. But I think we've covered pretty much everything. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I reckon. Yeah, that's pretty much hit everything. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, yeah.